Doom the Dark Ages has been out for about a month now since the recording session. The Slayer has many ways of dealing with the demons, but what if we bring Rip and Tear to the literal sense and find out, can you beat Doom the Dark Ages without any guns? The only rule to this challenge is I can't use guns to deal damage to enemies in any way, so that limits me to shield bashes, shield throws, ground slams, and shield runes, excluding the shoulder cannon because technically it's considered a gun in my eyes. I set the difficulty to Nightmare and set the parry window to minimum because I hate myself. Taking place in that, surrounded by chaos and weather showing a high chance of raining badasses, I spend the very beginning stuck using shield bashes and ground slams, which are both very low damage output, which also made the first unique demon a painful one, being the equivalent of a baby fighting a deity, with me being the baby. Shortly after, I finally get my hands on the gauntlet, allowing me to fully upgrade from baby to crippled toddler. Powering through some more demons, using ground slams and bashes to take down fodders, and then using the gauntlet to take care of the unique demons, I eventually learned to parry. The demon riders have plenty of parryable attacks, but once you take out the riders, they no longer can be parried. So I'm stuck with using shield bashes when my charges are fully depleted. Later, I ran into some demons' buttholes that needed closing, but to do that, I need to eliminate all the demons in the area, which is easier said than done. When you spend 60% of the fight staring into their souls while you wait on cooldowns. I acquire a weapon that I can't use, but I find myself being punished for even touching it, having to fight for my life. Parrying projectiles and dealing with the demons, I finally deal with the first portal, fought for my life once more against the multiple riders in the area, which oddly enough happened nearly every time I fought them. I got my hands on my first sigil, and finally closed all the portals. I'll later find myself playing the role of victim, as instead of facing one rider that I could hardly handle, I'm facing 3 of them, which ends up with me using a sigil from earlier. Taking down the final rider with the skin of my teeth, I hit my first, but far from the last, failed the challenge, being forced to use a turret, and sending the Titan back to the lobby. After taking time to recover from my superhero landing that was incredibly harsh on the knees, I finally got the saw for the shield. Finally having a way to deal damage that doesn't have a cooldown, I saw something that reminded me of a meme. I'm introduced to the Hell Knights, which are important for the melee charges. Then after dealing with the Hell Knights, I was introduced to the Mancubus, which are difficult enemies since their projectiles are not parryable on higher difficulty. Forced to use another sigil, I eventually deal with the remaining demons. I got my hands on the bubble gun, which of course I could not use, and collected another sigil that most likely would not last long. After dancing around projectiles and fighting for my life once more, I don't know why, but I wanted to see if I could use the shield to block the flames. I could not. In classic fashion, the sigil I collected didn't last long, and that'll be an often occurrence. Taking down more enemies, I was introduced to my first demon leader, and ended up being my first actual death during the run. But the next attempt, it was defeated relatively easily, at least easier than I thought it was going to be. I get my hands on the Power Ranger mech,
Go, go, Power Rangers!
And use it to weave enemy attacks and push their face inwards. Fighting with the mech is probably the easiest segment in the challenge. At one point I grabbed a gun, and as punishment was immediately bonked on the head. I tried to dodge my way past the Titans, and doing so in style, but then after reaching a blocked path, I knew what I must do. Removing the power cord and taking down all the Titans that stood in my way, I gave the Titanus pacifier and sent him on eternal rest, like the good father I am. Upgrading the shield to make it even easier to take down fodder and continue the one-bow combat in the game, I find myself stepping into a trap and facing multiple Hell Knights and barely escape with my life. It only got worse shortly after because I find myself being junked by even more Hell Knights, more than I can handle as they push me back into a corner. I finally encounter my first boss, and on his own, he isn't too hard. It's when he involves the Mancubus when things get hectic for me. They end up being death to me quite a few times till eventually I decided to just ignore them and dance around the endless projectiles and focus the boss, which ultimately worked. I'm introduced to Mr. Good Boy that knows many tricks like neck kisses, fetching, he even knows how to force feed hungry Titans. I take out the first cyber demon to destroy the ship, took care of fodder swiftly to take care of the others, and even made a friend further down the path. Fighting another horde of demons, I find myself playing the role of the victim once more, because even after using a sigil, I was put in my place again again and again. But after sacrificing all willpower, I made it through. I eventually get my hands on a new melee weapon, and this drops armor upon use, allowing me a way of sustaining on what people call living. I collect a random sigil, and even after upgrading the flail, it doesn't change the fact that I suck, and find ways to immediately use the sigil anyways. Facing another demon leader, yes, I will mention nearly every time I run into them, because that's usually where the pain begins. Demon leaders are just surrounded by super powerful demons, and the demon leader can't be hurt until you take care of all the other demons. They managed to take me out once, but taking down the cyber demon, hive mind, and remaining hell knights, I took down the demon leader. After offering myself with an explosive barrel, I found one of the portals I needed to close. I collected a sigil, closed the portal, and ran to another demon leader. Though I found myself dropping to critical health more than once, I surprisingly didn't die once here. I shouldn't have to tell you that every fight in the Doom universe only gets progressively harder the further I go. That was pretty much how every fight went. So, just assume that's how it all goes down, till I'm bitching and telling otherwise. You unlock more weapons and means deal damage, so of course the game slowly becomes more difficult. Those are kind of the rules of gaming, so if you haven't figured that out, may God help you. After closing the last portal, I came across yet another failed run and was forced to use the turret, and use it to give a Titan a well-deserved nap. Maxing out on sigils, barely surviving fights, and eventually using a sigil, more than once in fact, I pushed forward enough to run to the Hell Knight leader. Being forced to use another sigil, I finally defeat the Hell Knight leader and arrived just in time to warn Azeroth about his ship's extended warranty. It was then forcibly removed, but that wasn't enough to stop me, but just before I could tell him, he vanished before my eyes. I play a friendly game of tag with the demons and barely fighting to survive like usual. I use a sigil yet again, in fact I use all of them to still end up dying anyways. I eventually take out the Demon Rider leader, then ran to my second experience doing the run. After dying more than I could count, I eventually learned the attack patterns and finally bested him in battle, transferring him from champion class to cripple class by removing his legs. It's here I pretty much learned nearly all the attack patterns, but unfortunately doesn't change the fact that I continue to drop to critical health multiple times. Though, I still managed to get through all the battles without using my sigils. I activate the first panel, get a little cocky that ends up being my downfall, and after clearing yet another horde of demons, I activated the final panel. Then fought a familiar face, but if you ask me, it was a little too soon. But thanks to my new attack patterns from before, I managed to take him down on my second attempt. I collect yet another sigil. I finally get my first rune for the shield, allowing parry projectiles to cause major damage. In hell,
Fetch me their soul!
I continue to rip and tear while barely surviving every fight. I encountered a demon leader that ends up using a sigil, end up using two in fact, but I finally defeat the massive blubber of flesh. I destroyed the first hell cannon, collect a sigil, fought some more demons, and wouldn't you believe it, another demon leader. But it was luckily a cyber demon which are easy to handle in melee combat. Destroying the final cannon and collecting yet another sigil for my troubles, I fought for the rights to my own oversized battery that I used for another mech. Due to the mech pretty much being overpowered, nothing was really challenging here. I got a hold of another weapon, failing the run, once again, then breaking down the gates to fight even more powerful demons. I had to take down the demon leader that used a sigil after so long without using one. I then finally take the portal out of hell. Finally back on Earth, the rip and tear never rest as I take out demon leaders and many more. I then ran into Mr. Goodboy, found myself fighting demons to close portals and remove tentacles, which was easier said than done, but with enough resets to rival the movie Edge of Tomorrow, I finally take down the final demon leader and remove the final tentacle to witness a massive kidnapping. Now in an ancient prison for the old one, I felt pretty well dealing with the demons with ease. I was then diddled by the ugliest, most bitchless demon I've ever encountered so far. There are no words to express the raw ass pounding I had received over and over again. At one point I forgot how to die because last I checked, 0 usually equals dead, but not in my case. But let me tell you, the feeling of finally defeating him was absolute cinema.
Yes! Yes!
I fed the good boy a little snack. I then activate the pillars, I unlocked my final rune for the shield, and used it to insta-kill fodders, stun, and deal bonus damage to demons. I then had to use the big fucking crossbow, aka BFC, to further weaken the old one's cell. Pushing through the prison cell, I followed the old one through the portal, After collecting a sigil, I ran into my first Baron of the run, and had me use that sigil that I just collected not even 3 minutes ago. I then probably get the best weapon for this run, a melee-based weapon that pretty much one-shots 90% of enemies, plus the shock damage it allows us to be an absolute boss killer, making powerful demons easier to deal with. I mean, look at that damage, and that's without the damage bonus. This chapter is pretty much just full of demon leaders, but after collecting some sigils, I connected whatever this is to whatever that is to activate that something, doing a rinse and repeat of killing more and more demon leaders. I'll go deep diving into a terrifying ass ocean, leading to more killing. Oh, and also Vor apparently. Inside his stomach, I used all my sigils for the first fight, which I guess I could say was worth it, but that'd be a lie. After destroying the paws to expose the host cranium, I used my handy surgical tool to give the old one a slight migraine,
I got a headache.
resulting in his remaining bloodline to put me to timeout. I'd go through an insane makeover, then find introduced to Berserk. For those that don't know, that's my best friend in this run. After reaching the elevator to life, I shoot the crossbow in the air in celebration. Being disturbed from my hardest nap, I took my anger out on the innocent demons within a planet radius. I pretty much just continued to kill a bunch of demon leaders, destroy towers to finally fly up, and cause property damage. Oh, and also commit aggravated assault against a crippled. During his first phase, he wasn't anything special, and took him down first try. His second phase wasn't much harder, though I did have to use a sigil due to not paying attention. After finally taking out the Maker, and making the crippled even more crippled, I upgraded my mech strip with horns and cape. I'll throw a couple of left and rights like usual, destroy a couple of Hellgate generators, then run to the next fail of the run, being forced to use a gun once again. The old one asked for a rematch. Even when facing a boss, the mech proves to feel completely broken, and to make sure the old one's migraine can never hurt him again. You're welcome. Me and Prince Azarath take a moment to farm auras, and after that, he proceeds to pound thy ass raw until I use 100% of my brain capacity to remember his attack patterns and beat his first phase. Fortunately, once you learn his attack patterns in his first phase, he's pretty much no longer difficult anymore, due to his attack patterns never changing. After he ends up getting the upper hand, Mr. Goodboy steps in for the rescue, but is taken from me all too soon. And for that, the next 100 generation of demons must be wiped from existence. Again, due to his attack patterns never changing, I take him down first try, and then gently and carefully remove his heart. In hell, while the others charged to battle, I forgot what the plan was due to skipping their dialogue, so I go on a random side quest. Defeating the demons at the gate proved to be a handful, many of times, but after clearing them out, I ran for my life past the remaining demons ahead. I took out the demon leader, and then had a sense of deja vu as I fought a familiar face. Defeating him the same way I did the first time, focusing him and ignoring the others. Noticing that Azarath ignored my warning about his ship's extended warranty, I chased after his rod and remind him one last time. Using the Berserk to push through the demons inside, I confront Azarath for the 4th time. He made it to best be a couple of times, but eventually I managed to take down his partner in crime, putting us in a 1v1 once again. On my first attempt, I find a way to fumble with him at a sliver of health. Next attempt, he drops me at 5 HP, and for some reason, health never spawned like it did on my first attempt. But to my surprise, I managed to defeat him without him ever getting the chance to hit me again. I finally end Prince Azarath, installing fear into the demons, and unfortunately not beating the game without using any guns. That'll do it for this challenge video. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. If you guys have any ideas for a challenge in the future, leave them in the comments. I try to upload every other week or at least every month, and I hope to see you all in the next video.